And I know we're going to talk about making money here, and I'm just going to throw this in quickly. But what's happening now, there are women who are really shifting the dial on how we do business and how we make money. It's not big bro marketing. It is about community. It's about organic growth. It is about connection.
Hello and welcome to the Mama Culture. This is a place for you to be supported, inspired, and resourced on your unique journey through motherhood. I'm your host, Corey Zorns, a fellow mama, here to bring you information and wisdom on parenting, wellness, personal growth, and everything in between so you can thrive as a modern mama. So grab your favorite warm drink, settle in, and get ready for relatable, honest, and empowering conversations about the most important job in the world. This is the Mama Culture. Hi, Claudia. So happy to have you here today. We've been trying to connect for some time now, and you just got back. You were in London at a festival sharing. And then you told me you were on a 2-week vacation with your little ones, which I loved. But I'm so happy to have you here now. So thank you for coming on here. I'd love to start out with you just telling the listeners a little more about yourself and your journey as a mama and an entrepreneur.
Oh, thank you, Corey. Thank you so much for having me on your show. It's so great to connect from Ibiza to Bali. There's a very special axis. I know that both places are very transformational and portal opening. So, yeah, the mama business. It came really from me out of a personal need. Like I think a lot of women, when they make this transition to motherhood, where everything is turned on its head. And you realize that the world we live in is not matrifocal. It's not set up for motherhood. There is no village to support us. We're not meant to do this alone. We're not meant to even do this in nuclear families. That's such a sort of false premise. And I'm really my wise woman now. And I grew up at a time when it was still normal. Now we talk about neurodivergence and all these things, which is it's incredible because we are realizing how diverse we are and how inclusive we need to be. I was probably the first generation of women to actually benefit from the women's movement. So I did go to university and I did get a job and I had a career. I came to motherhood later. So I didn't start having children until I was in my 40s, which I actually think had a big advantage, at least for my generation, because we were the first ones who really went out there. And my mother's generation, she got married at 20, had me at 20. The woman was defined really only by the man she managed to marry, right? So if her man was doing well, and usually it was, of course, relying on her, keeping the household running, then that was her only way to make it in life, which meant there was a lot of competition between women. So it was like who could get the best man. So being actually an entrepreneur, a female entrepreneur in this day and age is really quite remarkable. And I know we're going to talk about making money here, and I'm just going to throw this in quickly. But what's happening now, there are women who are really shifting the dial on how we do business and how we make money. It's not big bro marketing. It is about community. It's about organic growth. It is about connection, which is exactly what we're doing here. And just to go back to your question, when I became a mother at 40, I'd already shifted from having a sort of corporate career working in the media to being an artist and also getting into the wellness world. So when my oldest, who's now 15, just turned 15, when he was 10 weeks old, we went on this massive adventure, his dad and me, to Goa to set up a beach resort with a 10-week-old baby. And pretty much everyone thought we were insane, especially the family. And so that started me kind of off on this entrepreneurial journey. And then by the time I had my third child at 45, my daughter, there was this deep awakening in me because we'd moved back to Spain. My now ex-husband had changed a lot, become much more conservative and traditional, which can happen sometimes too. Children don't just change women, they also change men. Right? And often it's like it's a call for deep shadow work for both of us. So as I was going through my transformation, he was going through his, and all the childhood wounding comes up, all that deep-seated trauma comes up. And then each individual, we deal with it in our own different ways. And he decided to deal with it differently than me. But anyway, I went on this sort of journey with Holy Mama. I founded Holy Mama pretty much 10 years ago that was May, actually, 2013, as I was pregnant with my daughter. And that was really my gift to women and children, because it was the gift I needed most for myself. I needed a place where I could go, connect with other women who were mothers, bring my children, because usually when you have a child, yoga retreats are like, no, we don't want you, doors shut. And I was very isolated. I was living in the south of Spain by this point. We'd already left Goa. We had partners running the resort, but we were already starting to wrap things up there. I was alone at home with 3 kids without family close by, in a completely different culture, married into a tribe who had no kind of understanding, and I do feel that our life's purpose and our greatest gift to the world is so closely connected to our deepest need. And when we really lean into that, and when we really go all in, and when we get over the naysayers and take all that courage, which remember comes from the word cor, which is corazon, heart, and follow that path. And I'm not saying it's an easy one, because goodness me, being an entrepreneur is like walking across hot coal, but it is the most beautiful journey, and you grow so much with it. So I've gone on lots of loops. I hope I brought it back.
I love that. I so resonate that oftentimes I think our gift to the world is our need. And you and I have such similar journeys, because I also started a retreat company 6 years ago before I was a mama. And I was really looking for community and connection, and I wanted to travel, and I wanted to be a part of something bigger. So I literally started a retreat company so I could have that need that I was looking for. And my journey's shifted so much, and now I'm a mama, and I also totally see myself bringing together mama's retreats just like you've done for the past 10 years. I was reading that you run 75 retreats for mamas and families, which is just profound. But I so feel that call in me now, and I know you've helped some people lead retreats as well, but I so feel that call to bring mamas and families together. And what's even sparked my whole desire with the mama culture is because we need community, we need more support, we need more resources than we've been getting. And I also love what you said, like how you were the first person, like in your family line, that had the opportunity, the first woman that had the opportunity to mother an entrepreneur that the way that you wanted to. And I feel so grateful that we are in a day and age in the timeline right now that we get to be mothers, run companies, be entrepreneurs, and do things differently. And it's such an exciting time to be a mama right now, and a really difficult time, because you're right, we're doing it in nuclear families, we're doing it by ourselves, and we need the village.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So first you co-founded a beach resort in Goa with your partner, and then you launched Holy Mama, doing retreats for mamas and children around the world. What led to so much success in your retreat company in bringing families together? And at the time, were you still with your partner, or were you a single mom at this time?
Okay, so let's rewind, because I want to give those watching the benefit of how do you make something successful. So if we rewind back to 2008, so this is 15 years ago when we set up the beach resort. Sometimes people look at success from the outside and they see the press or they see all the front end, but they don't realize the back end, and that actually there's a lot of devotion, there's a lot of clarity that needs to be there, consistency. But at the end of the day, it's connection, right? So when we founded our beach resort, we had very little money to invest. I had still a little bit of money left over from my TV job. So when I went on a sabbatical, and I had a couple of €1,000, not a lot. And with that money, all we did with that was we put down a deposit on a strip of beach, basically. And this also came as a surprise. It's actually quite a magical story. I was 4 months pregnant, sitting on the back of a motorbike in the south of Goa with his dad, who I'd met there a couple of years earlier. And as we were sort of going along in this beautiful palm-lined beach area, he said, I want to live here for at least a year. I want to be present for my child. Bing, you put it out into the universe. And I guess I really felt that too. And then we were offered this piece of land a couple of literally days later. And then we're always offered these opportunities in life. And then it's up to us to choose yes or no. And now those of you, I'm sure some of the people watching this will be human design savvy. And I'm a bit of a geek, but we're both sacral generators, me and my kid's dad. So we really resonated. It was a full-bodied yes, like a real gut yes. We didn't know at the time that we were generators. Actually, I did, but I didn't really live it. So we just went all in. We went then back, built a website. We were complemented each other very well. He was quite techie, and I'm good at words and conjuring up images as a writer, ex-journalist. So together we built this website, and this was the early days when people were starting to book online. So we actually built this amazing beach resort that's out of bamboo, and it's one of those where you take it down at the end of the season because of monsoon. We built it with money that clients paid up front for a holiday in a place that didn't exist yet. And this is this wonderful virtue. You can translate this to lots of things. This is why online entrepreneurship is actually, it has so little investment needed apart from you and your education, you and your time. So we built this website with the money from the first bookings, built the resort. This is a place you can build in a couple of weeks. And then the people came, and we also had some amazing teachers who trusted us and trusted our vision. You've got to have the vision first, have the dream, and then you build what your dream is. And this is where some people talk about manifestation. It is in a way a kind of manifestation. The success of Goa, I think then from year to year, was just creating a real family atmosphere. Again, the village. So in the first season, we weren't fully booked yet. And we took some people off the beach who came like backpackers, but we were very specific and very intentional in who we said yes to. And I was so unaware of it at the time, but it was really creating a space. And now I talk about the love field, right? So this resonant field where you are creating a very intentional healing space so that anyone who comes into it is transformed. A bit like when you're saging. It's like it's an instant, this is the intention we are holding. And this is the energy that you feel here. And it has to do with love, and it has to do with family, and it has to do with great food. It's not rocket science. It's actually, like a lot of things, it's simple, but it's hard at the same time. Because when someone comes who's really going through some heavy stuff, they're going to have all sorts coming up and breakdowns. The absolute joy and satisfaction and rewards you get from working in this area, because you see such incredible transformation taking place when people come on retreat. So I think the success of that business was, this combination of us being very good in business together, very complementary. He was very good at managing the team. I, at the time, didn't think I had managerial qualities. I shied away from all that because I'd been modeled this form of leadership inside corporate, very hierarchical, very top down, very, very sort of emasculated, masculine, not like masculine in their presence. So I shied away from that, but I did all the front of house, connecting with the clients, the marketing, the press, all of that was my jam. And that just flowed. And I think it was also because we were doing something that was new. There were no beach resorts doing yoga at the time. Now, if you go to Patnam Beach, it's full of people doing yoga looking at the sea. And for me, it was such a no-brainer. So we picked a good spot that for something like that, you need to do sunset yoga, early morning yoga, sunset yoga. So it grew organically. I didn't do any advertising for years. In fact, I still really don't do much advertising. I don't really. But I think the word of mouth is always your best advertising. And again, creating an atmosphere, being present, heart-centered, connected, really putting your clients, treating them like friends, really. People want to be seen. They want to feel that human connection. We're so separated look at these last years, what's come up. It's come up big time, but this has been going on for hundreds of years, this separation from each other. And if you take it to a metaphysical level, that's the human experience. We're separate from love. We're separate from God. We're here to experience what does it mean to connect, to be together, to feel love, to be in love, to be in community. And so Holy Mama really was, I didn't start it going, I'm going to create this big brand. I'm going to train others. I'm going to make this amount of money. I really started it with a spark of inspiration, told my sister, she told 5 of her friends, and within a week, they'd all booked flights to come to Ibiza. And that was the first Holy Mama retreat. And the name came to me already very quickly. And then it grew. And the second year, I think I did 2 weeks. And then it grew very quickly. By the third year, we were doing 8 retreat weeks a year. And they would just fill themselves. So that we had lots of return clients. And this is important, just to add this on for anyone who's wanting to be in this business and what works. Clients who come back. So what's the client retention rate is very important. That's your best calling card. There will always be people who are difficult. There will always be people who never come back. There will always be people who want to write terrible reviews about you. And again, human design, I'm a 5/1, so I'm not living my design if I don't get that. But let's say the big proportion of people, and also it doesn't have to be perfect. Now I've gone super luxury with my Ibiza retreat, and of course it costs more, and people then have high expectations. But you don't have to start like that necessarily unless you've got a massive injection of cash. So it doesn't have to be the most sumptuous resort. What's important is how you treat people, the space you create, how people feel. That's what they'll remember. They won't remember if the sheets scratched a bit, but they will remember how they felt.
I so resonate with that. And I remember all those moments in starting my own retreats. Like at the time, I was living in an apartment in LA and I was a cocktail server and I had enough money to pay my next couple months of rent. And I quit my cocktailing job and led my first 3 retreats in Bali. And again, the retreat centers didn't even ask me for a deposit. So like I was collecting people's money to pay for the deposit. So for people listening, if you want to start retreats or if you want to be an entrepreneur in this day and age, like what you said, you don't have to have a lot to start off with. Like you can get creative. And some other things that really resonate is the intention. I had such a deep intention with creating my own retreats. My life was changed by a retreat. And when I was leading these retreats, people's lives were changed. Like people were quitting jobs, they were moving across the world. And I was like, how? And I wasn't even the teacher. There was other teachers that we hired for these retreats. But I'm like, how are these retreats so powerful? And when I really sat with it, like my intention was so strong and so clear. So I love that you said intention and connection. I think those are 2 such important things in feminine entrepreneurship, in business right now. Really connecting with people and people feeling connected and feeling loved. It's what we're all craving right now, and especially mama.
Yes, and I love from how you're describing it. You were living in a city, and sometimes the no is bigger than the yes, because people sometimes think, oh, I have to have it all figured out. And yes, it's great to have a clear vision and that can drive you forward. But sometimes we're all individual. For some people, the no is so huge. I'm not saying now that I'm not assuming this was your case. I'm just using it as an example of like, I don't want to live like this. I'm not quite sure how the other path is going to work out, but I'm going to try it. And most of us should just experiment more, but we're not brought up that way. We're not conditioned to experiment. Yeah. And that's where the creativity is, because when you experiment and when you take that leap of faith, yeah, it might not work out the way you expected, but then you learn, you course adjust, and you've tried it. And usually you can always go back. There's always a place for you where you grew up. There's always a job for you somewhere, but it's taking that leap. And as you said, retreats have that incredible, like a reset where somebody comes away, they get out of their usual environment and they start to tap into, who am I really? What do I want? And lives are changed. Jobs are left. Families are started. Divorces happen. It's not always super positive. Sometimes you have to go deep to go. And I think you asked me earlier, in the course of Holy Mama, I didn't start it off as a single mom, but the more I gained, I guess it was personal power, but also the success and the money was coming in. And the expectations of me as a mother from my ex were far too conservative. And it's like he changed and I just kept on the path. If you spoke to him, he'd say, well, she changed. And when you have children, there's a balance. And nowadays, women yes, I cooked all the meals and I folded all the laundry. There wasn't a lot of that kind of sharing going on. But as I was doing it, I was listening. I think I very early on, I did like B school and I did integrative nutrition, and I was constantly learning, because otherwise my level of frustration of doing all the menial chores and not going out and making money would have been astronomical. And I was already, so during that time of having really small children, I was starting to do coaching and I was doing it online. And it wasn't a sort of, oh, I know this is where this is going to take me. I slipped into coaching like I slipped into the yoga business. It was also, for me, it was more of a, I'm not going back to journalism. I'm not going back to live in London. I don't want that kind of life. I don't want a mortgage. I don't want to be in that toxic environment where it was very boys' club. I'm nothing against men, but that kind of toxic, you know what I'm talking about. I'm sure most people do. And even men who are in that corporate environment, it needs to change. And I know it is. And some companies are run quite differently now. But often it is that soul destroying environment where your whole being just goes, no more of that. I need to go a different way. And that can often lead you to all sorts of interesting surprises. It might be retreats, it might be something completely different. But my invitation is to just hand on your heart and go for it, and block out the people who are going no, because mindset's important. You can listen to them. It's a bit like going to a doctor and being told you have cancer. Listen to the diagnosis, but don't believe the prognosis. And then surround yourself with more of the positive mindset. And there's a lot of really good stuff there right now. We're at a cutting edge now of personal development, psychology, neuroscience. It's all coming together, spirituality. And this is the cusp we're at that is changing lives on the planet like never before. This is this ripple effect that's going on now, and it needs to, because we can't keep, it's unsustainable the way we've been living since the Industrial Revolution, for sure.
Yep. Yeah, so many different styles of parenting and ways of being a mother started at the Industrial Revolution. And it's so exciting to see the time that we are in now. And you're right, everything is at our fingertips, all the information, all the knowledge. There's so much. And I like that you said mamas can explore what you want to create, explore what you want to build. And it might be, like you said, you have a really clear vision of I want to do this. Or it might be, I don't want this that I have right now. It might be like, I don't want this corporate job while being a mother. This doesn't feel right. And I love that moms just feeling really encouraged and really supported in exploring how they want their life to look, how they want to create, how they want to make money, what they want to learn, what they want to listen to. I think that's so important. And that information is so easy for us right now, like listening to podcasts, taking courses. And we can do that while being with our little ones and in those moments of naps. And so I love that. That's how you're started, like just falling into coaching by taking courses while you had your little ones.
Yes, absolutely. And this thing now where we can study, at the time when I took integrative nutrition, it was a couple of $1,000s. And it was a big investment for me at that time. But nowadays you can do courses for $27. You can piece together a really good, the education is going online. And if you look at the exponential growth of it, and a lot of it is fed up by women who are wanting to have more time with their children. So this is my whole thing now. And I know we're going to transition into this at some point. So I'm just going to seed it here. But most, as you mentioned, a lot of women, I would even say most, at least most in maybe our world, when they have a child, they go, I don't want to work 8 to 10 hours a day. In fact, I can't. I want to be with my child. Those early years, they go so fast, but they don't want to be stay-at-home mums either. They want to have both. And why effing not? Why not have both? Of course we can have both. And this is where we get to collapse time. And this is the beauty now. I was just doing a post about this. I probably worked about, I mean, not even full days, but in the last 3 months, because my kids have 3 months summer holidays. And yes, they separate the time. They have half time with each parent, but still there were a lot of logistics and travel involved. I don't work that much. I really don't work that much. And I don't think anyone should. And back again to one of my favorite subjects, human design, I have 3 projector children. So in a way, I'm also modeling to them how they should live their lives. And they say projectors you should only actually work 4 hours a day and delegate the rest. I think all of us can take that wisdom. And this is the thing with now this transition into more technology and AI and all the negative and positive and what the positive thing is, if we're shifting the way we work. So if you look at how communism, how Karl Marx wrote the manifesto, he was looking at factory workers and how a human being, how it was so anti-human, putting a bolt on a thing 8 hours a day. That's like brain deadening. And then the machine started to replace that. So we are evolving so rapidly now. And we will have more time because technology is taking over and it's making things more efficient. And the biggest challenge for us is discernment. And I think the Dalai Lama even says that's the highest spiritual practice. And I see it with my kids, teaching them or them learning themselves how to use media, how to use social media, how they feel when they've been scrolling shorts. My 15-year-old came to me and he went, I want to be a better version of myself. And I was like, whoa, I don't want to watch shorts. Mum, please help me stop watching shorts because it just is like consuming and I don't feel good afterwards. And so we are learning how to use technology in a way. And this is where the retreats again come in, to have that quality time and nature. Nature is the biggest healer so that we can go out. And I think this is going to be the way that we actually reset the balance. And all this talk about global warming and all this, we need to connect deeply with nature. We need to commune with nature. We need to talk to the trees. And you mentioned England before. I have Italian and Celtic ancestry, and my Celtic ancestry gets really lit up when I go to the UK with the old forests. And I was listening to all these talks at the festival from these academics and druids and all sorts of really diverse panels. And like I said before, the science that is coming together now with spirituality is phenomenal. And the indigenous, I don't know if I'm using the politically correct term, but if you look at the ancient wisdom from the Queros, the Quechua from the Andes, and all of these not really deeply connected with the earth cultures, this is what they're telling us. They commune with the clouds, they speak to the weather. And the Druids did that, the Celts did that. Every single culture, no matter where you're from, no matter what your background, definitely if you have African lineage, we all had that wisdom. We all had that ancestral knowledge and we've just forgotten it. And now is this time of deep remembering. And Asia, I mean, you're living in Bali. Asia is a wonderful place to go when you see that modeled, especially Bali, this devotional daily practices, very, very, I mean, unfortunately in Bali, there's been the West and the influence and the plastic, but even every place on the planet is this, how do we reset? How do we find balance again? How do we get the messages from the plants? Of course, plant medicine, that's one thing that people are using, but you don't have to even go that far. You just can commune with a rose.
Yeah, I love it. There's so many things I want to touch on, and they're all deeply. It's funny because it's these different topics, but they're also deeply connected. I love being a mama here in Bali because I feel so deeply connected to the earth. I was literally in a class today at my gym. I go to this gorgeous gym. The classes are on the top floor, and we were doing breath work. And then I closed my eyes, and I felt the wind blowing across my body, and I'm like, I felt it like speaking to me. Like I was having this crazy experience, and I'm like, there's just so much knowledge and wisdom connecting back to the earth and connecting back to nature. And there's so many answers there for mamas and for families. And then the other thing you said is you were touching on being a mama and there's different paths. It's like you could just be a mama and stay at home and that's it. But at some point, like it can be really wearing and it can be, you can start to crave stimulation and creativity and building something else. And I felt that in the beginning of my mama. I'm still early on in my mama journey, but I loved my partner took over all of our work with our retreat company, which I loved. I was so grateful for. And I really just want to be present to co-sleep and breastfeed on demand and just be a mother. And then I started craving a creative outlet and to give something back to the universe and to do something. And that's where the mama culture came along. And women right now and moms right now have the ability to do both. I just had a woman message me recently on Instagram, a mama, and she's like, I just had my maternity leave. It was, like less than 3 months. And she said, I really don't want to go back. I don't know what to do. And I'm like, you don't have to. There's other ways that we have so much to access right now. You're right, with technology and with AI, like there's so many opportunities. And to come back to your intention and to come back and connect with yourself and what is it that I want to give back? What it is that I want to create? And being in connection with nature helps you with that. So yeah, those all kind of tie together and loop back together.
Yeah. Knowing your what, you call it your why, like your purpose. It's like we all have one, all of us. And for some of us, it is being just 3 years fully present for our child or children. And that's amazing. I wrote this book about 10 years ago and I do want to update it, but it was all about later motherhood because I was coming from journalism. I did a lot of research. And one of the books that I read that you might know by Jean Liedloff is called The Continuum Concept. And she was the grandmother, I mean, she's passed away recently, of the whole conscious parenting movement. And she was a psychotherapist in New York, seeing so many unhappy families, not just families, but individuals, depressed and all this. And she decided, as part of her studies, to go to live with the literally Stone Age Indians in the jungles, and came and observed how they lived. And the whole basis of her thesis and of her book and of this created waves was that babies and children are held for the first couple of years of their life. They're carried everywhere. And in a way, we are changing the world by mothering in that way, because those children grow up differently, because they feel safe. They are this, I spoke earlier about the disconnection, the separation of babies from their mothers. I was put in a nursery when I was born all night because that's what they did. And when I was born, and my mother couldn't breastfeed. She said, oh, I didn't have enough milk. Well, of course, because prolactin is produced at night and you didn't have your baby near you. And I did also full breastfeeding for all three kids. If you didn't manage to do it, I'm not judging here. And I know for some women, it's really hard and they have infections. But what I'm saying is, if you have the opportunity, and this, again, it doesn't just have to be the mother. This is where we're missing the village. So in this Jean Liedloff book, she talks about the community, and it's not just the mother, it's the grandmother, it's the whole village who carries the babies. They all carry the babies, and the baby's just held on a physical body so it feels safe. And when they are ready to venture out into the world, so the toddlers, she has this, it describes this scene where a toddler is crawling to the edge of a pit, where most Western parents brought up in that way of parenting that a lot of us have been used to, we're going, wow, watch out, stop. In Spain, they go, que te caes, which means you're going to fall. It's like you're already projecting the negative, complete fear response. And what they would do is just calmly observe and trust the baby, trust the toddler, because the toddler has felt this safety throughout all of their time they have been on the planet. They're not going to do something insane. They are just like, so it's like step by step. And I think in Kundalini yoga, there's this thing of the distance you have from your baby, the older it gets, the greater it can be. But it's that proximity. People need to feel safe. And when we feel safe, when we feel like we're in this love field environment, we can start to process things. And of course, most of the time it goes back to early childhood. So this is why parenting and mothering, and in fact, this is the most important job we can do. And it is the most important job for mothers and fathers as well. And we shouldn't just do this alone. And it would be wonderful. Like in Bali, there's more of this family community. And many cultures on the planet still have kept that alive, even though it's been very difficult with Western culture and Western ideas just sweeping the planet. And just one more thing I wanted to add. When I was getting into this, I want to work again, I had this, it was like this rising in me. And I was reading Barbara Marx Hubbard, who was also passed away. So we're building on the shoulders of giants. There is amazing women that have come before us and men who have created legacies. So Barbara Marx Hubbard is one of the co-founders of Conscious Evolution. Like they coined that phrase. And I think she had 4 children and was doing this old 50s housewife thing, and got to a point where she called it vocational arousal. So it was like this heat And it might even be related to perimenopause. Yeah, I don't know how old. I think she was in her like 40s when this happened. And Kundalini rising even, and it just came through her body to go, I need to do this. And it's such a strong, it's a full bodied, this is why this word, vocational arousal, I think sums it up so beautifully. And for some of us, it can be a whispering. It can be very subtle. It can be just an extreme tiredness. Motherhood brings with it. The co-sleeping can actually be a good solution because you're not having to get up in the night. But still, there's immense devotion that goes into this giving to your child. Immense. So for some women, it's literally, I have not got the energy to even think about starting a business. And that's okay too. Maybe there are some whisperings and step by step, and it's then putting yourself in rooms and environments, listening to podcasts, whatever it is that gives you inspiration. Because inspiration is breath, breathing that breath, that life force back into you so that you can thrive. Because at the end of the day, we want to be as fully expressed as possible in this lifetime, because this is what we're here for. Let's enjoy it. Let's have fun. Let's play. Let's dance. Let's sing. Let's express ourselves. And as long as we're still living in a capitalist society, we need money. We need money to live. So why don't we just make some money whilst we're having fun?
Love that. It's finding the balance of making money while having fun and being in joy. And I want that for so many mamas, because I think the creative spark, that spark to do something, to create, to make money, comes at different stages for different mamas. So some mamas in the beginning, like they just want to stay at home and they feel so right and so resonant. And then at some point that spark comes up. But when you do leave your little ones to go do something, if it's not something you're aligned with, if it's not something that brings you joy, but it just brings you money, like it's such a different experience. And for me, it completely feels not worth it to leave my little one to go make money in a way that doesn't feel so resonant and so beautiful and so connected, and that really lights me up. And yeah, I think that's such a great thing for moms to strive for. It's like it is possible to make money and be in joy and happiness. And so yeah, so I think that's my next question is, so two things we touched on earlier. You made a comment that you think it's important that moms make money. I'd love to hear more about that and your thoughts on that.
So maybe I'll just talk about my grandmother to start this off. So my grandmother was a single mom, not by choice, but because she lost her husband when she had 3 small children. And her mother actually got divorced at a time where women didn't get divorced. So I grew up with this. Swiss German is my mother tongue. And there's a word in Swiss German called Frauengeld. It comes from German, which means woman's money. And so if you look at Europe and you look at the north of Europe, the feminism and the woman having her own right to vote, it's not long ago that you had to get your husband to sign for a credit card in the States. But this movement of women being independent and having their own money, their own voice, has a longer tradition, let's say in the Nordic countries, maybe because the Vikings were they had female warriors. I don't know exactly. There's probably different theories here. But it's very important because you never know, like in my grandmother's case, what's going to happen in life. So in her case, she really struggled because she left everything. Her husband did leave her with a pension, but they were having to work and deliver newspapers. My mum, as a child, had to work because her mother didn't have any Frauengeld. So you never know what's going to happen. You never know. So yes, it's important for women to have their own money, because if you are suddenly on your own, and so many women fall through the crack, so many mothers end up on social aid, and they don't even get social aid sometimes and even when they do, it's peanuts. Most of our systems are failing now. I really see, from the healthcare to the justice system, and if we're really going to go deep into what's coming, it's not going to get any easier. These old systems are just rotten from the core, and they're corrupted, and they're not based on human thriving. So they have to go. So what do we do? So in the meantime, we have to create new ways of living and being and new ways of working. and new ways of connecting with each other. And we're doing all that. So I can't stress strongly enough how important it is for a woman and a mother to start planning for her future and for the future of her children. And no pressure here, but it doesn't have to be complicated. And this is where it really excites me what's happening in the online space, and how most of us who have been on this path a long time have very low cost options for women to learn from us, to join a community, to support each other, to rise together. And it's getting easier and easier. So, and sometimes it is dabbling, it's trying out different things. It's maybe taking a course here, taking a course there. Sometimes it's just sitting with yourself in silence and meditating. And like you were saying before, doing breath work with the breeze coming through your body. And you can have a complete aha moment where you have this download, this divine download of do this. This is your path. So I'd say just be present in as much as you can. Just be present with yourself and be open and just be receptive to what comes. And a lot of us women, this is the beautiful journey of motherhood. We learn to receive because we receive the seed. To become pregnant, actually, we need to be receptive. So that translates. And I've worked a lot with fertility clients, women who are seeking conception and seeking pregnancy, and being in a very masculine, again, that kind of push environment. And a lot of this is about just being open to receive.
Thank you for sharing that. I've always had that force in me, like, I wanna create, I wanna make money, I wanna be in my happiness, enjoy doing it, like, it's just been there. But as you were speaking, I thought about my mother, and my mom really taught me that. My mom's like, I want you to always be able to take care of yourself just in case." And, yeah, I guess I was really empowered by it because I always like, my partner right now is running our company, and I'm like, "I need to create a side project, I need to do something, I need to give." And it feels empowering, and I also what you said is there's so many low-cost options right at our fingertips. So many people have low-cost courses to learn from, to connect. There's so many opportunities to get your hands on something, to dive into something, to test something. So, yeah, so that was a great reminder. What do you think for women who feel really stuck maybe in the corporate role, or like you had a corporate role before? What do you think with women who feel so stuck because they're in a corporate job, they're making a certain amount of money, they need that to support their family, and that transition can feel so scary. So what
Yeah, that's a tricky one because you are in a golden handcuff. And this
Mm,
is why it's very much this lifestyle when you are living in, usually it's a city where you are trapped in a way, or you're in a rat race, this rat race idea that you cannot leave your job because your costs every month is so high. So on a very practical level, it's basically sitting in front of your spreadsheet and mapping out what are your costs every month, what are your expenses, and what's coming in. What is there anything you can reduce? Where can you cut some things out? What is possible? What's the margin? And sometimes when we sit, this is very left-brained work of being very methodical and going through everything. And sometimes it really is, I'm going to have to move. I'm going to have to leave the country. And for many, that's not possible. And they don't want to do that. So sometimes not everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. That's another thing. But if you do feel like entrepreneurship is the way, and I know that the stats are growing, and the whole fact that we are going to be working less hours in the future means there will be more people working for themselves, and maybe more people doing different jobs, and not just because they need the money, but because it's fulfilling, because we're eclectic beings. And this was, again, go back to Karl Marx. This was the premise of the manifesto that didn't work, unfortunately, because humans implemented it wrong. But it was this thing that we should be sitting at the table like a philosopher, and then doing this for 2 hours, and then doing this for a bit. And this was this thing. Factory workers were just mundane the whole day. And if you're sitting at a desk or for 8 hours, it's also mundane. It's also brain deadening. So this is, at the end of the day, this is about how can you optimize your life, your lifestyle, your day, so that it works for you. If it means that you are sacrificing that amount of time in exchange for money, then What can you do? How can you stop building up? Sometimes it is a side hustle. Sometimes it's a hobby that becomes something. And this is the thing now, if you hear all these people who get up at 5 to write their book, or people who start doing something that's their hobby and they get more training on it so that it takes over. So not all of us want to take that leap of faith and just dive in. It's a personality question. And for some of us, we can't, because we are literally in that, yeah, it's a handcuff. And this again, I'll bring it back to online, being able to get out of that. And I use this time for money exchange. It is very liberating, but it isn't an overnight. Sometimes from the outside, people think, oh, it's just so easy. It's not an overnight. Most people, it takes them 6 months to a year to get themselves at least a bit established and to build a personal brand and all that. There's some legwork involved. There's some consistency involved. So I guess my advice would be see where you can. And this can also be, again, going on a retreat, even if it's just for a weekend. Take yourself out into nature, take yourself out of your usual environment so that you're able to. It's also bringing yourself more into the right brain, the holistic brain. So you're seeing how everything ties together. Because when we're functioning and running and in a schedule, we often miss the bigger picture. So we need to take ourselves out of that routine so that we can get the bigger picture. I see this a lot with the mothers on the retreats. When they have a baby, it takes them back to when they were younger and what they actually wanted when they were 18, 19, 20, and how they drifted off and they did this career and they did all that. But then they're like, okay, but that actually went a lot further away from what I originally wanted. Let me go back to what I originally wanted and let's see if I can connect more with that again. The adolescent's brain, it grows a bit like a baby's brain. It's like exponential explosion in the brain, all these new synapses. So that time, if you take yourself back to that time when you were an adolescent, what were your passions? What were the things that you really wanted to do before everybody told you, no, you can't do that? And that's often a good place to look. Or even going back to childhood. Did you love drawing? All these things are to be explored. So there's many options. And I think it's this thing of just being open again, being receptive and being curious and courageous.
I hope this gives so many mamas who feel stuck or who want this permission, who want this step into making money and being in joy and having both, being a mother who's present and dedicated and co-sleeping and so there in the motherhood journey and also creating. And I hope this gives mamas permission that is possible. And you're right, it might be getting out into nature, it might be going on a retreat out. I believe that retreats are so powerful because you're out of your routine, you're out of your environment, and then something different sparks. But yeah, I think it's really easy for mamas to feel so stuck in a corporate job or so stuck in a motherhood role and so not supported that there's no time or space or energy left to figure out how to start a business or do something creative or start a new hobby. And it's possible and there's ways and we just need to get creative but there's always something there. So I hope mamas feel so much just permission in that is possible for every mama. It's easy to see like, oh, these mamas have it, someone else has it, but I can't. And I think if they are in a role making money or doing something that doesn't feel good, or if they're mothering and they're not doing anything creative or not having any hobbies and they want something more, like it is so possible.
Yeah. The tiredness that we can feel is very real. And sometimes we have this pressure and we're like, I've got to do it this year. And then January starts and this year I'm going to do it. In the bigger picture, time is actually not relevant. So take the pressure off yourself, I would say as well. We are our own worst enemy. We hypnotize ourselves all the time. So that mind talk of like, they're not good enough or that you're not doing enough or all this stuff, just be kind to yourself first and foremost. And I think that's what most mamas need to hear because we are our own biggest critic. And then this is this thing on the Instagram mamas. And then we're like, we look at it to get inspiration. And then it has the absolute contrary result because it makes us feel even worse. I go there too. I have so much compassion for the mamas. And it's really, that's why I'd say just cut yourself some slack and don't worry about the timing of this. And I can say this now as a sort of, not a grandmother yet, touch wood, it's a bit early still for my son to have a child. Coming from this perspective of having lived many years on the planet and having built businesses and having done all that, having done the career, and actually going, well, actually, what's really important? And really important is your relationship to yourself, first and foremost. And this whole self-care talk, and it sounds so simple, but it's so profound. It's so profound to give yourself that love, first and foremost, and really filling your cup and putting on your oxygen mask, because you can't care for anyone. You can want to be really connected to your child, but unless you're connected to yourself, it's going to be difficult. You're going to overgive. You're going to lose yourself. I'll just give you another quick example. Last week, and I do this still, I went for a walk with my two boys, and one of them left a water bottle in the car. So I only had two. We ran down a mountain. They were like, Mom, keep up. You're so slow. We ran up the mountain and we had to pick up their sister, and we didn't have enough water. I was so chronically dehydrated that I nearly crashed the car because I had a split-second blackout where I nearly steered. I actually steered across the road. Luckily, it was a country road. There was no oncoming traffic. And I went, oh my God, what a wake-up call. Drink the water, take an extra bottle, make sure that you also get water and you don't give it all to your kids. So there's a sort of metaphor example of, please, mamas, you come first, right? You come first.
That is really the best thing to leave on, because it's the biggest important thing we need to remember. It's like we need to fill ourselves up. We need to come first so we can give. And I also love what you said about letting the timeline be slow, letting the timeline be open, like just not judging the timeline of how long it takes us to create or to get back to doing something or to make money. I'm experiencing being an entrepreneur now compared to being an entrepreneur when I was 28 and I had all the time in the world. And these days I'm so tired. Like we just have not stopped teething. For 18 months, I feel like we haven't stopped teething. And the rate at which I want to create goes so much slower. And I've gone to my own judgment of like, why isn't this moving faster? But then when I sit with it, it's okay. I'm on a mama timeline and it's all perfect. And what helps me battle the tiredness is it's two things. It's self-care, but like working out and moving my body. And then creating literally has been giving me life force and energy to help balance out my tiredness as a mama. So yeah, I think such a good thing to leave mamas on, just having so much compassion and self-care for yourself. Okay, my last thing before we finish. If you could write one thing on a billboard for all mamas to see, what would it be?
I guess, yeah, it comes back to this put yourself first. And it's not selfish. It's actually having the holistic approach to how can you care for everybody else by caring for yourself first. And because of our instincts to nurture, we have this as women, even those who are not mothers or not mothers yet, or have decided they're going to nurture in other ways. It is in our DNA as females, and those, men have it too. We all have female in us. We're not so. The polarities are coming closer together. There's more interweaving this is our multiverse, eclectic future and present. But being so aware of the need to nurture ourselves so that we can nurture others. And however that looks, it could be just sitting 5 minutes earlier, getting up a little bit earlier. Or I know that you spoke about the tiredness is very real. And it doesn't always work to get up earlier. I had whole years when I was like, I want to get up early. And I just couldn't. Because as soon as you want to get up, then a baby's boom on the breast. And there's, forget that one. But we can do a lot of things. Our thoughts are very powerful. So what we believe, what we think, all these small moments in the day can completely change your life. So the sentence would be, if it's in neon writing, like behind you, Mama, be kind to you.
Yeah. Mama,
It's
be kind to you.
kindness. But I think it is a wonderful thing that we could all really use a good dose of. Kindness changes the world. So, let's be kind to yourself and be kind to, and this is what I love when I come to Asia, there's a sort of culture, it's in the culture to be kind and courteous, and obviously not everywhere, and people are rushing there too in the cities, but generally there's this different vibe there that you wouldn't necessarily find in the middle of London, unless there's sometimes things happen, and this is where crisis is a great opportunity, that people then come together and the kind people step forward and the leaders step forward, and some people panic and then they are put at ease by those who are being kind and supportive. So we all respond differently, but I do feel that kindness is a completely undervalued, I guess it's a virtue, that we can cultivate it. And I think it's a good thing to cultivate. And it actually takes me back to the success of the company, because I think the kindness, the genuine kindness, and I think this was one of the reviews we had for Holy Mama. She was saying that you can't fake this kind of kindness. It's genuine. So when you choose the people that are coming to work with you, like you, I hired facilitators. I never teach. I am not a yoga teacher. But it's this intentional choice of who are you bringing in as your support team? Who are the people you are surrounding yourself with? And I also want to wrap up the thing about making money. Sometimes if we have trauma bonds, big theme now, trauma bonds. I definitely had a trauma bond with the partner of my children. And the more that I was doing then the deeper work and understanding the codependency, the more that there was this need to have my own money so that I could leave. And I'm not going to go into the details of how it then happened because it wasn't that straightforward. But if we take kindness as our barometer, as our like North Star, and then we go, is my partner being kind to me? Is this behavior, this dynamic we have between us based on kindness? Is there enough kindness? And ask yourself these questions, because I didn't want to model to my children an unkind household, because I experienced that partly myself. There was a lot of kindness as well. I'm not throwing out everything, but generally there's like a point where it's unsustainable. So yeah, that could be the second line. Kindness is your North Star.
Thank you so much. I love that. It's such a good remembering. It's such a perfect thing to end with. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing all of your wisdom with motherhood and entrepreneurship. And I just loved the different trails we went down and how it all ties back together. So thank you, Mama. And I'll link everything for everyone to see, Holy Mama and the retreats and the courses. But is there anything you want people to know about you, where to find you, what you have coming up?
Most of the stuff is on my Instagram page or on the website, because I don't know exactly when you're airing this and things are moving quite fast right now. I have different products, entry level. I have a challenge coming up. Obviously I'm in this retreat formation, but also business. I'm very passionate about momprenneurship and really giving women the tools that it took me years to accumulate them. And now really like refining. I mean, this is my background as a journalist, allows me to really get the most essential information, break it down and pass it on. That's my skill set. So yeah, I just connect, send me a DM. I'm always happy to hear from amazing mamas and those who are, obviously most of them are mamas who come to me, but you don't have to be, you might be a fur mama. And yeah, so thank you so much, Corey. You're doing such beautiful work, and I am really honored that you invited me and that you're giving me this opportunity to talk about all the things I'm passionate about. So thank you. It's been a joy.
Thank you so much. All right, Mama, thank you for tuning in. I am sending you so much support and love on your journey through motherhood. Remember, you are not alone in this beautiful, wild, and sometimes challenging journey of motherhood. This is your village. Please subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and share this with anyone else that you think would benefit. Take care, Mama, and I will see you next week. Thank you for being part of the Mama culture.